to another video, Purple Political Talk here, and today we're going to be looking at the 2020 presidential election, and specifically going to be discussing what a Biden landslide / best case scenario will be looking like. So we're going to analyze the map and look at states where if Joe Biden overperforms expectations massively in the best case scenario, where would he win and by how much? So before we get started and fill out the map, I want to remind you guys to please like and subscribe and turn on post notifications to get notified when I upload my latest content. So let's get started by filling in the safe states when talking about a Biden best case scenario. So when it comes to the Biden best case scenario, there's many things that could definitely happen, and some Democratic states are going to go further into the column. So states include Colorado, Virginia, some of those states that some people may consider in the lean or likely column at this point. They could even move all the way forward to the safe column. I also believe that in a best case scenario, the state of New Hampshire would be safe. Other than that, everything else is pretty normal. Everything else would really be in order. So, this is our starting off map. We will begin with these states, and we're going to start with this electoral map. So, right now, we have the Democrats at 216, so they have a huge advantage when it comes to a Biden best case scenario. They're overperforming expectations. And the Republicans in a Biden best case scenario are going to have to deal with certain things that they're going to have to put a lot more effort into some states where realistically putting effort was not a thing or should not have been a thing. However, they're going to have to put some effort for them to beat Joe Biden easily. So we're going to start off the map at 216 for the Democrats and 83 for the Republicans. So let's start by pulling in some of these states that the Republicans would win by some likely margins. So here we have states like Montana at this point in a best case scenario for Biden, and Missouri and Indiana. I think states like Mississippi and South Carolina. Those states would go into the likely column for the Republican Party. These are states that solidly are Republican. However, since they have a minority populations or they like Democrats somehow, and where Trump is unpopular, these margins will go down from being solid for the Republican Party to being somewhat contested. So, those states, nothing is able to flip, I would say, in these states. However, the race would narrow down in a best case scenario. So, generally speaking, what are the things that could make this a little bit more contested? Montana, you have a lot of excitement for the Democrats. However, it's still going to be a Trump state, and while there may be excitement, it's not going to be enough to pull it over. Missouri has a lot of African-American voters in two major areas in St. Louis and in Kansas City. And those areas, we've seen from primaries recently and all these different things, they're liking the Democrats a lot more, and they're very excited to go for the Democrats. Remember, Missouri was one of the closest states in 2008, so that's another thing to keep in mind. In the state of Indiana, that's Mike Pence's home state, so that would certainly help the Republican Party. However, Mike Pence wasn't insanely popular in the state of Indiana. However, Joe Biden and his campaign, and whoever his VP is, they could essentially get the suburbs in areas like the suburbs of areas like of the Chicago suburbs that live in Indiana and Indianapolis. Those people could easily go and vote for the Democrats and get the margins up a little bit. The South, we've talked about this before. There's a lot of black vote that's going to be excited to vote for the Democrats, so that might really help them out. And considering that COVID-19 was a hard-to-hit thing in the South, essentially some of these states might want to vote for some normalcy. However, Donald Trump's going to win there by a large margin. When it comes to the Democrats, they have a ton of likely states. They have Nevada, they have Arizona, Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and I see they have a very good map when it comes to a lot of these states, and it's a lot more than they usually get. I would even go to say that in a best case scenario, Wisconsin will also go lean for Joe Biden. So this map doesn't look anything like we would see currently. It's a very good map for the Democratic Party. The Republican Party is going to have a nightmare with this map. So, with Nevada and Arizona, these are states that are trending more Democratic. A lot of Latino population voting for the Democratic Party. And if turnout is high, excitement for Joe Biden is high. Or rather, not the excitement for Joe Biden, because I think a lot of people do not find him exciting, but a lot of people find the excitement in the Democrats to be getting rid of Trump. So that excitement by just in all parts of the country. So we see states like Nevada, Arizona, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those states push up the margins for the Democrats. Instead of going by 3 to 7 points, maybe going by 5 to 10 or 15 points. So situation by situation is definitely going to change. However, if Joe Biden does very good, and not only nationwide and all these different things, I think he should be able to win the election. We already see that he already reached 289 electoral votes, and that's without even filling a lot of the battleground states. So, the Democrats have a really good map, and essentially what are the Democrats going to need to do to get here? One, keep the excitement anti-Trump. Everything, if they keep on putting the anti-Trump messages, I know that a lot of voters will be excited to go out and vote. And I would say it would be really good for the Democrats, if they just have a low profile and they lay low. If they start going out campaigning way too much, and then those are the chances that they're going to say something stupid, and that's going to ruin their campaign, like we've seen many campaigns ruined in the past. So, right now, the Democrats just need to lay low. And if they do that, and Donald Trump continues to go downhill, then that might happen. However, we also must note that best case scenario at this point, this is not going to be the best case scenario on election day. Honestly, what's going to happen is we're gonna see a race narrow down, and I'm gonna make a video about that, how the race is narrowing down. So that's something else to note when thinking about this video. Okay, so we talked about the likely states. Let's talk about the lean states. So for the Democrats, I would go out to say, if we take Florida, I would go lean for the Democrats. North Carolina at this point, lean for the Democrats. Ohio, lean for the Democrats. And in a best case scenario, I honestly could see a state like Iowa going by a little bit more than 1%, so lean to the Democrats, as well as Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, lean for the Democrats. So that's going to be a very, very good race for them there. And if they're able to win these states by those margins, they're going to do very good. Again, what are we seeing here? A lot of African-American population, minorities excited to vote against Trump, all these different things. And we must notice that is the case in a lot of these places. So, something to note. So, those are all our Democratic lean states. Let's go on to the state of Alaska. That's going to be our only Republican lean state. This state, in a best case scenario for Joe Biden, is going to be within 5 points. I would say just because of excitement against Trump. Some leaders' polls show Trump ahead only by 3. Polls not very not the most accurate, especially this far out. As we get closer, we're going to see where the true race follows. But since we're this far out, polls are a thing that we can't look at with solidity. So that's something else to note. Because if you compare 2016 results according to the polls, this time around, essentially he had Clinton winning by a landslide. So that's another big thing to note. However, since Alaska has a lot of liberal or Republicans and those type of people, they could actually somewhat vote for Biden. So those are all our lean states for both the Democrats and the Republicans in a Biden best case scenario. And I think honestly, when Biden has a best case scenario, the state of Georgia will be in to reach. I think he could win there by a tilt margin. Georgia by a tilt margin, as well as the state of Texas, like I said, and Maine 2nd congressional district, I feel like also like a lean margin. So, to answer your question, yes, I think in a best case scenario for Joe Biden, he will hit 413 electoral votes. Now, these tilt districts are the ones where I'm a little bit more skeptical. Yeah, he led in Texas a couple days ago. I think Trump is leading again, if I'm correct. I'll have to check. I think this morning when I checked polls and kind of all the forecast, Donald Trump was narrowly leading, according to RCP at least. That's what I used to check the polls in the morning. And honestly, at this point, Texas looking pretty good for Donald Trump at this point. They're leading there. However, as we get closer to election day, things can change. And do I personally see this flipping in a regular scenario? No. However, I see Texas going to Joe Biden narrowly, by less than 1% maybe, in his best case scenario. And Georgia, it's a state that has a lot more minorities. And I think, honestly, flipping it for Biden is not out of the cards in a regular scenario. However, it's a lot more likely in a best case scenario. And when it comes to Maine's 2nd congressional district, same thing. Not in the cards for a regular scenario. However, very likely when it comes to a best case scenario for the former vice president. Overall, what are we seeing? One, a lot of blue on this map. And we can tell this scenario to be a lot better than how Obama did in 2012 and 2018. So essentially, if we take away Texas and Georgia, you will have the same electoral count as Obama did in 2000, or I think a little less, because I think he actually, there's something wrong about this map. I don't know what it is. Because, I mean, it would look the same. I think it was the same electoral count. I'll just have to check. However, I mean, in the best case scenario for Joe Biden at this point, he will overperform. And, I mean, at this point, what's going to carry Biden to his best case scenario? 1, excitement against Trump. 2, a lot of money. I mean, the Democratic Party have a big advantage when it comes to money and stuff like that. Just because, since they have the election pretty much wrapped up at this point, things can change, obviously. They don't have to spend too much money there. So, if they want to spend a lot more money, Texas and Georgia is the way to go. I mean, I think they shouldn't be spending too much money into like Texas and Georgia and main second congressional district like they must be doing in the Rust Belt and Florida and North Carolina. However, I mean, wouldn't be bad either. So, I mean, this election is going to be definitely close. I mean, it's going to go down to the limb. When we get closer to election day. Right now, it's nowhere near close. I mean, it's it's more than 300 electoral votes at this time for Joe Biden. However, I mean, it's still possible for Donald Trump. So, this was our best case scenario for former Vice President Biden. And, yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications to get notified when I post my next video. Hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.